Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jens Giersdorf, and I'm working at GIZ at the Transformative Urban Mobility Initiative, the flagship initiative funded by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. And I would like to welcome you to this session of the Transport and Climate Change Week, the session in which we will have a look into e-buses in the Global South. And I'm here with many colleagues and friends that together form the initiative, the TUMI E-Bus Mission initiative, working towards the implementation of electric buses in the Global South. So yeah, I would like to ask the audience to ask any questions in the chat. We will take up these questions after the presentations, and the speakers will try to answer them here within the session. So I would like to welcome here the first speaker, Oscar Delgado. He works at the ICCT, and he will give us some insight into the target setting for electric buses. So we'll open here the presentation for you, Oscar. And yeah, would like to ask you to start your presentation. Anthony, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Jens. Hello, everyone. Very glad to be here today. And thanks for the invitation, Jens. My presentation will focus on the need to set targets for zero-emission buses in the Global South cities. I would also share a few principles to apply when setting such targets. Next slide, please. Okay, so first, why do we need electric buses? This analysis by the ICCT shows that to put us on the path towards 2 degrees Celsius trajectory, the entire on-road transportation sector will need to accelerate its transition towards zero emissions technologies. Here of relevance, half of the required greenhouse gas mitigation will come from heavy-duty vehicles. And in this segment, buses are especially important. First, because of their ubiquity. And second, because electric buses are market ready. The technology is now mature and cost effective. And it's a really good segue for other heavy-duty vehicles to enter the market. So in terms of timeline, we need zero-emission bus sales to reach 100% by no later than 2035. This pace of transition, of course, will also lead to significant health benefits because of the improvements in air quality in our cities. Next slide, please. So why setting zero-emission bus targets at the political level is important? So I call it the Zebra Partnership in Latin America, where we collaborate with the TUMI E-Bus Mission. Our vision is to transition all the transit bus market to zero-emission technologies in Latin. And when engaging with bus operators, they mentioned to us that there were not commercially available products to satisfy their needs. And when engaging with electric bus manufacturers, they mentioned to us that they were not seeing the appropriate demand for them to invest in or to bring these buses. So in order to unlock this demand and supply chicken and egg problem, we secured ambitious political commitments by cities. And once the city authorities articulate a zero-emission transit vision, the deadlock is broken. This sends the market signal to OEMs and to investors that there would be a demand for these buses. And it also sends a signal to operators for them to start thinking seriously about the transition that is about to happen. So we consider target setting as a critical first step that lays the foundation for the remaining steps of our theory of change. The results in Latin America can be seen. For example, Santiago, Chile, and Bogotá, Colombia, are the cities with more electric buses outside of China. In Sao Paulo, the largest city of the region, the mayor recently committed to 2,600 electric buses to be procured by 2024. And all these political commitments have supported our engagement with manufacturers. And now we have more than 10 manufacturers that committed to make commercially available products in the region within a year, both Chinese and European manufacturers. We also secured commitments by investors to bring more than $1 billion for E-Bus projects in the region. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we know that setting targets sends the market signal that sets in motion the entire ecosystem change. So now I want to briefly cover 4 principles to set such targets. The first one is the need to set target years for 100% electrification for both new bus purchases and for the complete in-use fleet. As an example, California adopted the innovative clean transit regulation that requires all public transit agencies in the state to transition gradually to zero-emission technologies. With a milestone of, in 2029, all new buses need to be zero emissions. And with the expectation that the complete bus fleet will be zero emission by 2040. In the Global South, we have Colombia as a good example. National Law 1964 established the goal of 100% new buses to be zero emissions by 2035. So about 6-year delay compared with the California targets. But Bogota, Colombia, the capital city, is setting an excellent example, as the city decided not to allow any more internal combustion buses to be procured starting this year, 13 years earlier than the national law. Next slide, please. The second principle is to set up incremental milestones along the way. So goals that are too far on the horizon alone do not create a sense of urgency. So good targets spell out near and midterm goals and outline a gradual progression to full electrification. These drive immediate action and also allow the whole ecosystem to get on the learning curve and, let's say, start developing the capacity to create the infrastructure, learn about the operations, about the new technology, etc. As an example, here I have, again, the Innovative Clean Transit rule in California and the Colombian national law that spell out yearly targets until they achieve the 100% goal. Next slide, please. So third principle, the targets should be explicit about zero tailpipe emissions. Currently, the pathways or the dominant pathways for these are battery electric and fuel cell electric buses. We at the ICCT have modeled the life cycle greenhouse gas emissions of different technology pathways, and battery electric and fuel cell buses are the only ones capable of deep decarbonization in line with the Paris Agreement. Ambiguous language like low carbon or transition fuel and others open the door for combustion engine variants. And those won't ultimately take us where we need to go in terms of meeting climate goals. Next slide, please. For the fourth principle, here we need to think about the system level, not only the vehicle level. So well-to-wheel emissions of battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell electric buses are lowest when powered by renewable energy. So cities should encourage the co-development of a renewable electricity system. And the public transit can be like a starting point. This principle is a little bit more challenging to apply, since usually city transit authorities lack the power to regulate or influence directly the energy market. But at the same time, the transition in the transportation sector towards zero-emission vehicles is needed. So we need both, let's say, the clean grid and the clean vehicles, and they need to happen in parallel, and one does not depend on the other. One cannot be used as an excuse for the other not to happen. They are mutually reinforcing. This type of call for action will send a signal to utility companies and stakeholders in the energy industry, let's say, to transition faster or to be aware that this is happening. Next slide, please. This slide shows examples of cities or subnational, because we also have California, targets at the subnational level for 100% zero emission buses. Just as an example, it doesn't aim to be comprehensive. and a link to our blog is provided. So here the message is the TUMI E-Bus mission is engaging with 20 deep dive cities in the Global South, and is planning also to engage with hundreds more in the mentee cities program. So here we have a good opportunity. There is a great potential for these cities to shape the market beyond their city borders. Let's say cities could lead to national level change. And by setting these ambitious E-Bus adoption targets, we want to inspire or enable a race to the top, where these cities aim to become global leaders in zero-emission buses and show other cities in the Global South how this transition is indeed possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oscar, for these insights into the work of ICCT in general and also within the TUMI E-Bus mission. Sorry that it was not able to share the slides for the audience at the beginning. We will, of course, share the slides afterwards. And Oscar also included here to link to this resource, the blog article by ICCT on the importance of subnational goals for the electrification of public transport. This inspiration, this ambitious target setting is, of course, an important first step when it comes to deploying electric buses or planning for electric buses. And it's important as well as the political commitment. Someone who's working very strongly on political commitment and engagement from the cities is C40 cities, of course. And so I'm happy that we have two colleagues here, Anthony from the headquarters and Ana Terra from Brazil, who are working on financing or new business models for the deployment of electric buses in general under Zebra, the TUMI E-Bus mission and other initiatives. And so financing, of course, is an important piece when it comes to planning and implementing e-buses. So I would like to hand over to Ana Terra. I will end here the presentation and ask Anna to share her slides and to give us some insights, because there was an interesting activity within the TUMI E-Bus mission and Zebra last week in Brazil, the Clean Transport and Finance Academy. So Anna, please go ahead and share some of your insights in the discussion with the cities on developing bankable projects for e-bus financing.
Thanks, Ian. Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me well and see me well. I'm start sharing my slides. Yeah, I was going to just confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. So my name is Ana Terra. I'm based in Rio, Brazil, and I'm part of C40 as TUMI E-Bus Mission Manager. And today I'm going to present to you an overview of an event we delivered last week in Rio that somehow resumes everything that we've been working as part of TUMI E-Bus Mission and C40. So the Clean Transport Finance Academy is an event organized by C40, but last week was the fourth edition. But the first one that we were organized focus on one country specifically. So we had the Brazilian cities participating, cities that are part of Zebra project, TUMI Deep Dive, and TUMI Cities Network. And we had the opportunity to put everyone in the same room to talk about their experiences and to share knowledge of their financial models and how to deploy e-bus missions for e-buses for their cities. So the objective of the event was to, as I said, to have everyone in the same room and to give an opportunity for the Brazilian cities that have so many challenges and opportunities in common to discuss and to help each other. So we had 90 cities participating. That are the list. Some of them are C40 cities and part of the deep dive cities, and other ones are part of the city networks, which is this other part of the TUMI E-Bus Mission. And the format of the event was basically was divided in plenary sessions and breakout sessions, bilaterals, and site visits. And with this, the main objective was to make sure that we were creating opportunities for the cities to interact in all possible ways, and to make sure that they would leave the event knowing more about finance models, but also what other cities were doing in this sense, and also to make sure that they would be able to talk with manufacturers, so the industry and the finance sector as well. So we combined 3 days of events to make sure that we were covering all these 3 topics. So now I'm going to go very quickly on the agenda, so you can have an idea what the discussions were. So the first day was, as I said, a exchange between cities, so to make sure that they were talking to each other. So we had the opportunity to present a first version of a study that it's been commissioned by C40 with Euromonitor, which is basically to present to cover the bus market in Brazil. So we were able to present to the cities the first findings of this study. And we could talk about this study in the end if you're interested. And then we invited Bogota, so they could talk about their experiences of e-bus procurement, because it's one of the flagships in Latin America, one of the main cities developing way experience in this area. And we talked about TCO in São Paulo, as well as an opportunity for the cities to discuss with the Brazilian Ministry of Regional Development, which is the ministry in Brazil that leads the discussions on electrification. And it was an opportunity for them to not only hear from the ministry about what the future might look like in terms of federal level, but also to take some challenges and discuss this with government. And we also discussed a lot about the main incentives to electrification and how to guarantees could be structured for the project. And in the end, we had a great discussion of presenting of what some cities that are a little bit ahead of the others, what they are doing in terms of e-bus procurement, how they are finding the business model, some experience that are already in place, and main challenges and what they learned so far. On the second day of the event, the focus were basically on manufacturers. So it was like one of the main wins for us in terms of the agenda of the event. It was the opportunity to put several manufacturers in front of the cities, so they could present their technology, their innovative solutions, and the cities had the chance to ask specific questions about how the manufacturers could be able to deliver technology and for their own projects for the cities and their own specifications of what could be delivered. So it was a very good mix of international manufacturers, Brazilian companies based in Brazil, and some of them joining online. So it was a very good discussion. And also we had the chance to talk a little bit more about technology, about how to adapt the infrastructure and how to design infrastructure. And we had the opportunity to have bilateral meetings as well for the cities to sit with every manufacturer and discuss their project on a one-to-one basis. And at the end, we had a e-bus demonstration. So we took to Rio, to Copacabana Beach, three e-buses. So the cities and all participants had the opportunity to check the technology, to see the buses, and it was really interesting to see this happening. And the last day of the event, the focus were on the investors. So to create the opportunities for the cities again to discuss the business models, but now not only with their peers, but also with their possible future partners. And again, we had an opportunity for the cities to be in front of these investors and discuss with them their own challenges and present what they are interested in having, because every city is they have their own specifications. And two cities presented their future electrification plans, with were a great opportunity for us for the investors also to see what the Brazilian market look like in the near future. And again, a more bilateral meetings opportunities. A great session on problem solving, where the cities presented their main issues for e-bus deployment mainly on the finance side, and we had the support from investors and TUMI Zebra partners to help the cities to solve these main issues. And a very special part of the objectives of the event was to make sure that the cities would leave the event not only with of all the discussions we had during 3 days, but with an action planning. So we asked cities to during the whole period of the days to start producing some main actions, or what the main actions after what they would take of the event, and to work on a personal plan to make sure that us as TUMI and Zebra would be able to follow up with them very, very closely and help them to take actions after the event. It's another way for us to understand exactly the demands and needs of the cities, so we can plan our activities for the near future. This is a feedback from one of the participants, how the event helped them to keep developing their plans and make sure that they will be able to succeed in the near future and create a new layer of experiences and help them to achieve their targets. So that was basically the event. But I don't know, Anthony, if you want to complement anything, please feel free.
Thanks, Anna. I don't really have anything to compliment. I think everything was said. Well done on the presentation. You know, this is I think we all understand the need to have multi-stakeholder conversations. We're not going to solve this issue. We're not going to accelerate and scale the deployment of electric buses and electric mobility in general without involving a very large range of stakeholders, ranging from cities, national government, investors, bankers, manufacturers. There's just such a wide range of stakeholders that need to be actively engaged in order for us to move the needle, that events like these are really, really critical to what we do. It really allows us to put, like, as Anna said, really put everyone in the room at once, and for everybody to talk to each other in the same, basically in the same day, and have these conversations right there. So it's extremely effective, and also a very efficient use of time, of donor funding, to really put everyone in the same room. So having done these events before, I can say that there's a lot of good things that come out of them, a lot of good connections, a lot of things that are born at these events because of conversations that are had at these events. So it was a fantastic event to put together, very complex, with a lot of stakeholders, a lot of different people, but we're very, very happy with what was accomplished.
Thank you very much, Anna and Anthony, for giving this insight into this work, bringing together all these stakeholders, and seeing that your work is also being considered by these nice words from Anna Jaime. Was also at the TCC week at 7:20 and 17 or 18, if I'm not wrong. So it's of course important to bring all these stakeholders together and to discuss this transformation of public transport by implementing electric buses. Someone who's also working on this in India now is Aparna Vijaykumar from the World Resource Institute in India, supporting especially 5 deep dive cities under the TUMI E-Bus Mission, but also working with the national government, and also supporting an initiative on the collective procurement of electric buses. So when you come from target setting or designing bankable projects, of course, there is also important challenges when it comes to setting the right framework for the procurement of electric buses. So Aparna, I would like to ask you to go ahead and give us some insights into the recent work you'll be doing under the TUMI E-Bus Mission in India. Aparna, please go ahead.
Thank you, Jens. I hope you can see my screen. All right. Thank you, Jens and Rohan, for inviting us to TCCW. And like the speakers before me, I would like to actually dwell upon various aspects of what was discussed by Oscar, as well as the colleagues from C40, Anthony and Anna. Here I would like to discuss essentially what the electric bus scenario in India is like, and also how demand aggregation was actually optimized as a tool to achieve parity between electric buses and ICE buses. So essentially, just giving you an overview of the bus sector in India, we are looking at a requirement, at around 1.4 lakh public buses, which is 140,000 public buses across the various cities in India. And what we also see is that around 22% of this existing fleet with the public bus agencies, which we call state transport undertakings in India, are overaged. So we are just looking at a snapshot of the major cities in India with their bus fleets. And if we are looking at it like, the age ranges from anywhere between 2 years to 12 years, and a majority of the bus fleet is overaged. And these are buses which are running in some of the most polluted cities in the world. So this sets in a need for transitioning our public transport to electric. And as part of as steps towards achieving that, the government of India has outlaid a subsidy plan for electric buses, public electric buses, and the outlay was for 7,000 buses, and it was announced in 2015. But since 2015, since say around 2017, which actually that was when the guidelines and everything came into place, and the cities were selected for the subsidy, we have only seen around 1,900 buses which are operated on ground of the 7,000 buses. And we have also seen some aggressive bidding by around 5 manufacturers in India. But in the coming years, we also see that there is a bus requirement of around 2.2 lakhs. And this when translated to the government commitments of 30% transition of public transport to electric, we are looking at around 66,000 buses, electric buses by 2030. And this is just a number in Indian rupees, which would translate to around 13,000 crores per year. And this we are expecting our public bus agencies, which are mostly in dire straits with respect to the increasing fuel rates and human resources rate to actually cover these expenses. And this is what we are seeing, is that there is a clear gap in earnings and costs incurred. And because of this clear gap, there is essentially it hits the bus agency's credit worthiness, which is essentially what which is essentially why the subsidies were put into place. But again, because of the credit worthiness, we are seeing that there is a sort of a barrier which the operators or the OEMs face while bidding for electric bus operations in these cities. So again, and also when we have also seen that there are multiple agencies, international financing agencies, which who has a mandate for electric buses or clean public transport, but there is again a need for guarantees from state or center to access these financing. And that is essentially why we are discussing the need for better placed electric bus procurement process itself. So, and also in India, another clear thing is we are moving away from buying buses outright, public bus agencies buying buses outright, to a gross cost contract model for electric buses, since there is no capacity within the bus agencies for to operate and deploy electric buses effectively. And that brings us to the question of experienced operators in the market. So that again, we are seeing that there is a lack of experienced operators, or a lack of capacity in such kind of operations. So here, the TUMI Electric Bus Mission comes in, where we are looking at 5 deep dive cities across India: Delhi, Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Bangalore, and Chennai. And across these 5 cities, we are looking at a deployment of around 3,600 electric buses in the next couple of years. And our technical assistance towards these 5 cities are in 2 arms. First is looking at a visioning process for these 5 cities, where we are supporting the cities in creating achievable visions for the transition to electric buses. And this would include looking at the market, the organization structure of the cities, because most of these cities have experience in operating buses through outright purchase, rather than actually being a regulator of operators. So this is something that we are working with multiple cities, especially in Mumbai, where we are looking also not only to a transition from ICE to electric, but also looking at a transition from being an operator to a regulator. The next arm of support is core technical support, where we are looking at, once the city takes a decision to move to electric buses, and there is a tender in place, we are looking at depot prioritization, looking at route prioritization, and operations and monitoring support. So here we also have certain tools that WRI India has developed in-house, like the TCO evaluator and the route evaluator, and guidebooks on planning and procurement of electric buses. So we essentially use these tools and resources towards this technical assistance. And as part of TUMI E-Bus Mission, we also launched a challenge, the Better Electric Bus Challenge, which looks at bringing various technology solutions into the e-bus space in India, mainly in the 3 buckets of planning and scheduling, operations and management, then procurement and financing. So right now, we are at the phase where we have 6 shortlisted companies who have pitched their solutions to a jury consisting of all the deep dive cities and all our partners. And we are right now in the process of finalizing our winners for this challenge. And then essentially the winners will pilot their solutions in these deep dive cities within the next 6 to 9 months. So that given a background of what TUMI E-Bus Mission is actually looking at in India, I would like to go deeper into some of the learnings that we have from some of the states and cities in India, and also a deeper dive into the whole grand challenge process, which has actually revolutionized electric bus procurement in India right now. So a key insight from the state of Gujarat is that there is also an additional subsidy, which is a viability gap funding, which is provided by the urban local body and the state government in Gujarat, which is essentially which translates to rupees 12.5 per kilometer to cities who are transitioning to either CNG or electric buses. So what we have seen is that the state of Gujarat has had that background of operating buses through a GCC contract or outsourcing their operations to an operator. And there has been a quick turnaround in terms of from the tender application to actual deployment of e-buses. And the state of Maharashtra in BEST Mumbai, which is the the city bus agency in Mumbai, one of the largest cities in India. We saw a very successful price discovery recently, and this was also due to the inclusion of state subsidy, and the lot sizes were 1,900 buses, which was aggregated across the city. And also we have higher assured kilometers in Mumbai and standardization of termination clauses. And coming towards the Grand Challenge, which is the largest demand aggregation across, in the world, which was managed by Convergence Energy Services Limited, CESL, which is a subsidiary under the Department of Heavy Industries, which actually disburses the FAME subsidy for e-buses. So I would like to take some time to actually discuss the whole Grand Challenge process and how the Grand Challenge actually translated into better prices for e-buses. And I'm happy to say that WRI India was also helping CESL in actually structuring the Grand Challenge, as well as bringing it to fruition. We signed an MOU with CESL before the Grand Challenge was conceptualized. So essentially, the working of Grand Challenge, it is actually a result of multiple stakeholder conversations, multiple stakeholder consultations held since July 2021. Essentially around 40 plus consultations, and across multiple stakeholders from the center, state public agencies, premier think tank like Niti Aayog, the manufacturers, operators, and technical agencies. And there were also 3 workshops that were held across cities to finalize the Grand Challenge. So the Grand Challenge essentially was a subscription model for electric buses. It was in the form of an invitation to all to the selected state transport undertakings to subscribe to the Grand Challenge. And essentially before the subscription, all the challenge parameters were set in terms of the RFP, the terms and conditions of the tender. All of these parameters were set by CESL in consultation with all the stakeholders involved. And then it was identified that there would be an aggregation, a demand aggregation by the interested cities, and an allocation of the FAME 2 subsidy across the cities on a pro rata basis. And once this aggregation and allocation was done, a total of 5,450 electric buses were aggregated. Demand was aggregated along with double-decker buses. Then this happened in December 2021. And the tender was launched in Jan 2022, which was till March 2022. And then the selection was done within a month or two. And again, the next step is that the cities agreed to the rates, and we received lowest rates across all segments. And I would also want to discuss, just spend 2 minutes on why these were the lowest rates. And the FAME 2 incentive will be dispersed in accordance to the formula by the Ministry of Heavy Industries. So I would like to highlight that the Grand Challenge saw the demand was aggregated across 5 cities in various segments of 9-meter and 12-meter electric buses. And we saw a variation of around 7 to up to 48% reduction in the bid rates from the previous price discoveries and previous bid rates in these cities. So essentially, why did such a reduction in rates happen? So this mostly the rate reduction can be attributed to the fact that the demand was aggregated across 5 cities. The terms and conditions of the contract, like the assured kilometers, opportunity charging time during the day, the contract period, they were all homogenized. So initially, the assured kilometers was varying across the cities, and mostly the assured kilometers was to the tune of 140 to 170 kilometers. But through the grand challenge, it was agreed that every city would agree to 200 kilometers a day or 70,000 kilometers annually. So this essentially reduced the fixed cost and reduced the bids drastically. Then also the opportunity charging time, which was neglected in the previous bids, it was decided that there would be a 60-minute opportunity charging time which would be provided to the operator. And some of the risks associated with the bid, like electricity cost, the upstream infrastructure for charging, etc., were situated with the public bus agencies. And also there were some clauses like subsidy determination formula, the subsidy bank guarantees, escalation formulas, and project termination directives. These were all there were multiple consultations that I discussed earlier, which essentially helped the cities to kind of come to an understanding of what reduces the risks to the operator, to the public bus agencies, which are the strong suits of the public bus agencies which they should retain, and which are some of the areas which can be outsourced to the manufacturers. These were all identified, and across the 5 cities, across the complete demand, and resulted in the lowest benchmarked price for electric bus operations in India, for around 39.21 rupees per kilometer, which is around, say, 0.4 pounds or so per kilometer for 9-meter buses. So this is something that I wanted to share in terms of how demand aggregation and target setting actually set the tone for price discovery of electric buses in India, and achieved parity between ICE buses. So some of these rates are much lower than the rates received for diesel or CNG buses in these cities in India. So I will end here and wait for your questions.
Thank you very much, Aparna. Impressive numbers from India always when discussing scale, and so important approach here to aggregate the demand for electric buses and creating scale, and also creating this important influence that the deep dive cities have beyond the cities, as Oscar also mentioned, for the whole national context, of course. And while WRI is working with deep dive cities in India and in other regions, of course, and C40 as well, and ICCT, we have also some initiatives when it comes to upscaling this over other cities. For this, ICLE and UITP are in the lead when it comes to this. So, Mircea, happy to share here your presentation, and please take over and presenting the work that you're doing when it comes to share these lessons learned with other cities within the TUMI E-Bus Mission network.
Hello, everybody. Good day, or good afternoon, or good morning, wherever it is in the world that you are listening to us from. Thank you very much to all of the colleagues from the TUMI for the experiences they shared. It is always a very interesting experience, even though we are, of course, part of the same project, to also see and hear and understand what is going on in all of these cities, and see everything being put together for these presentations. As Jens so kindly introduced me, my name is Mircea Steriu. I work for UITP, which is the International Association of Public Transport. And UITP, as an association, we represent the interests of largely the three main sectors of the sustainable urban mobility sector. So on the one hand, we have public transport operating companies, so the companies that are running the buses, running and planning the operations. We have a division that is dealing with organizing authorities. So they are the city governments, which in most cases, they contract out the services that are being seen by the citizens. And we also have a division of industry and equipment manufacturers. So the manufacturers of either vehicles or any types of telecommunication system or other IT and equipment, including signaling, and in this case, also charging infrastructure, which are being used in the operations. So the reason why I told you this was because, as Aparna mentioned very early during her presentation, UITP is very much involved at the technical level in terms of linking and liaising the companies who have, in this case, introduced and they have gone successfully through pilots to run e-buses within their system, and now they are in the position to share. And part of the work that we are doing together with the rest of the partners within the TUMI E-Bus mission is to focus on how we can bring this experience from cities who are already implementing, who can be characterized as experienced or advanced in implementing the e-buses, and taking this experience into what are normally going to be smaller cities, which is why I'm very happy to have seen the initiatives that are coming from that WRI was talking about in India. So when we're talking about upscale, the goal of the TUMI E-Bus mission is to not just focus on the deep dive cities. You have seen the different maps from the colleagues earlier. So that is the headline 20 cities with whom we're going one-on-one in terms of in terms of giving them technical assistance, and give them the specific guidance and then the roadmap for scaling up. But we're also trying to focus on cities who, well, by their very definition, they are smaller and don't necessarily have the level of buying power or the technical know-how, sometimes in running public transport to a very professionalized and contractualized manner. And over here, we're looking at the Mentee Cities Network, which is the main topic of the presentation and of the work that eClay together with UITP are leading as part of the TUMI E-Bus mission. So we're trying to identify and then provide technical assistance to these cities. We have already successfully recruited 55 of them worldwide, and the goal of this assistance is to make sure that once they are ready or once the procurement has come, e-buses do not come as a complete unknown to them, because of course we will, in order to reach the Paris climate goals that Oscar so rightly mentioned in his introductory presentation, we will have to, of course, go beyond the bigger cities worldwide. So we have to make sure that they are that these cities will be ready. So in terms of the guidance, really that we are offering, first. They will have stay on the previous slide, Jens, if you don't mind. In terms of the guidance offered, we will first give them the very basic of e-bus as a solution to urban transport. Then we're going to focus them on a training course, which will take into account the raw basic of how to operate electric buses. So this stems from a basic of procurement and what is specific about procuring e-buses compared to other types of public transport, commissioning and operations. Then, of course, and this keeping in mind the fact that some of the cities who are involved in the Mentee network are undertaking the process of electrification at the same time as they are going through more professionalization of public transport in general. We are also offering them with a training course on diversity and inclusion, because of course the type of profiles and the type of staff which is going to be hired or which is going to be needed both in operators and in authorities as a part of electrification is a little bit different than what some of these cities and operators had been used to. So we are offering a training course on this as well. And then together with that, we will have the virtual study tours and a series of technical assistance workshops where the cities who are part of our network will be able to go into more depth on some of their selected topics. Primarily, it's in terms of route planning, in terms of planning operations and procurement as well. So the e-bus training, I've just given the general outline of the UITP e-bus training, which is followed worldwide. So we have the electric solution for urban bus network. What's the impact on operations? Give them an overview of the current market, and then teaching cities in a very hands-on workshop format about life cycle cost and how these can be calculated and how this can be included in the contracting. And then of course the procurement process, which now takes account of the various operational specificities. If we can go to the next slide, please. And then of course we will delve into some topics more in depth during the deep dive, the technical workshops, which are due to take place between July and September of this year. So we will offer these 10 of these technical workshops open to all mentee cities which are looking into the total cost of ownership, how to actually put together a tendering document, and then looking into the needs for e-bus operations. So it is to some extent a lighter touch than what was explained by my colleagues in the deep dive cities, with the added advantage being that we are able to upscale, and when these cities are ready to go into procurement, they are starting from a solid basis, which will help them implement e-buses a little bit more easily. And with that, I'm conscious of the time, so I'm putting my contact details, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, either now or via email, of course. Jens, you're muted.
Thank you very much, Mircea, for giving this insights into the work of UITP and eClaim when it comes to upscaling the efforts that other partners are doing with the deep dive cities to the mentee cities. Yeah, we are unfortunately over the time, but since we are also recording the session and we start a little bit later on, I would like to at least answer the one question that we received here. It was also answered in the chat, but maybe yeah, only one question to answer here. If the colleagues from C40 are or still here, Anna or Anthony, on the question on the role of utilities when it comes to the investments and financing electric buses. Not sure if you want to answer here, Anthony, briefly.
Yeah, thanks, Jens. Happy to answer. I would say it really depends on the cities. It's also very different when cities have ownership of the depots, obviously. In cases when they don't have ownership of the depot, what's within their power is very limited. So it's a case of engaging operators who typically own the depots to make sure that the work is done. But I would say that what utilities, every time we speak to utilities, what they tell us that they need is clear targets. They need to know, because these people are very technical, right? They need to know exactly how much power needs to get to the depot. So, you know, and also, you know, they don't want to make that investment twice, okay? So the targets have to be set and they can't change. And in order to do that, cities have to have clear deployment targets. They need to be able to say, we're going to need power for X amount of buses that are going to be charged over the course of X number of hours at this particular location in the city. And so that requires very specific deployment targets. It requires clarity on the technology. Is it depot charging? Is it opportunity charging? It also needs clarity on the operational strategy, meaning that do we have one charger per bus? Do we have one charger per 2 buses, 3 buses? So how long do we have, you know, overnight to charge the buses? So there's just a number of considerations, which means that yes, utilities need to be engaged, but in the case of Brazil specifically, which was the location of this academy, a lot of cities are not at that stage yet. And they need to make those targets first. They need to figure out when, how, over the course of how long they're going to deploy those buses. And then the technical work can begin. One other thing that I'll mention that's useful to remember is that utilities, we had, you know, first we had sessions on charging infrastructure because it is something that needs to be thought about early. So we did have sessions so that where cities could share, and some of the cities shared what has happened in the cities on the topic of charging infrastructure. The other thing to keep in mind, I think, is that in many parts of Latin America, the utilities are actually one of the key drivers in electrification, and certainly they are very interested in fleet electrification. So, you know, some of the key players that are supporting the deployment of electric buses in the region are companies like NLX, like ENGIE, that are also, you know, also happen to be utilities. So they, in that case, you know, in many cities in the region in Latin America, like we said, seen in Chile, in Santiago, in Bogota, Colombia, the utilities were really, really central, and they also played a role of asset managers. And they come and lease out those buses. So it's a very integrated solution. So yeah, there's a number of things to take into account, but certainly the maturity of the cities is one, and the fact that utilities are engaged through their role as financier and asset owner is also something else.
Okay, thank you very much, Anthony. And we need to come to an end, but Aparna, you raised your hand. If you want to add on this, please go ahead and maybe short last statement.
Sure. Just wanted to add on to the whole depot electrification conversation. So as part of the grand challenge, it was also discussed across the 5 cities that, you know, for manufacturers, especially in the case of India, where all the operation is being outsourced to the manufacturers, like, for example, an Electra has to come and operate the buses. It is not essentially just buying buses. So here, it was decided that, you know, it makes sense for manufacturers to actually invest in depot electrification only if there is a certain quantum to it. So it was decided that the cities have to accept, have to actually aggregate 75 buses in one depot for electrification, and this was this was accepted across all the 5 cities, and this is also one of the reasons why probably the bid rates went down as part of the demand aggregation. So just wanted to put that here as well.
Yeah, thank you for this information, Aparna. Really impressive that e-buses are also really competitive with conventional buses when aggregating the demand. So that's, of course, good news. Thank you very much, all of you, Aparna, Anna, Oscar, Anthony, and Mircea, for joining the session on e-buses in the Global South within the TUMI E-Bus Mission. I would like now to ask the audience to join the next session. PTX in transport, going the last mile to reach net zero will be the next session organized here by the PTX Hub. So please refresh your live stream and see you next time on the Transport and Climate Change Week. Thank you very much and have a good rest of the day. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice one.